This is Hot Mike.
Hot Mike.
On the networks of WDAY.
WDAY.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour 2 ready to rock and roll on this Tuesday morning. Steve Lockway will join us about a half hour. Dragons with a biggie with Northern State. We'll preview that coming up in just a little bit. We talked about it yesterday during the show. We're now into the playoff portion for North Dakota high school football in 9-man in Class A. The first round begins this weekend. Class A, top seed is Langdon area Munich. We all saw that. Kildere's the 2. The 3 seed is Ellendale-E-K. The Thunder are having a dynamite season. They'll open up the playoffs with Grafton coming up on Saturday. Their head coach, Garrit Irey, joins us this morning to get us ready for a fun game down in southeastern North Dakota on Saturday. First off, thanks so much for the time. Tell me about this year. Did you expect that the success you guys had was coming, or was this out of the blue this year?
You know, this is a group that we knew we had some talent coming back for sure from last season. We did lose 6 seniors to graduation last year, 6 starters, all two-way guys. So there was definitely some question marks when the season opened up as far as, were we going to have guys step up and would we have these young guys that we had hoped would fill the roles. And man, to our surprise, they've stepped up and they've elevated their game. And like I said, they had a good season, and we've continued to improve, week in and week out, which is obviously always our goal. The kids have really bought into that idea of playing to a certain standard, practicing to a standard, training to a standard, and doing that every day, and not looking ahead and those type of things. And I got to give the kids a lot of credit for buying in and committing. But yeah, I've been very, very happy with our progression up to this point and the guys that have stepped in to fill those roles.
Your first year, a couple years ago, you were 0-9. How much are you enjoying this, that now here you are, a 3 seed and a chance to make a run in the postseason?
It's definitely been a fun ride with this group. Like I said, watching them improve week in and week out. It's a different kind of stress, I guess you could say. The stress of expectation versus the stress of not having a lot of success. But like I said, we talk about as a team all the time, just about remembering how lucky we are that we get to be a part of something like this. Not everybody gets to have a season like this, and know that we got to feel fortunate that we've been able to have the success we've had and never take it for granted.
How much, Garrett, when you took over, knowing full well program is not in a great spot, that first year of slugging it out, how tough was that every Friday night when you're losing, to have a big picture mind in plan?
Yeah, it definitely gets tough. I think the biggest thing there is what we tried to preach early on is, that we're going to work on changing culture, that we were going to work on establishing a standard, and that Rome wasn't built in a day. And, we celebrated a lot of little wins back then. We celebrated, if we were, instead of looking at all the big picture stuff of, we lost a game here, we lost a game there, but if we were accomplishing specific game plan type ideas, we made sure that we celebrated those things, and that we talked to the kids about it, and we recognized those things so that the kids could see that even if the building blocks were small, they're there. And it seemed like each week, we would take a stride. We lost a couple of real tough games that first year. I think we lost a game on a field goal to Oak Grove, I think 40 or 45 yards. And that's the 3rd or 4th time in my high school career coaching that I've been beat by a field goal on the buzzer, believe it or not. That don't happen very often, but I've had four of them, I believe, since I started this thing back when. And but that was the big focus, is that, to get the kids to believe, and we just that celebrate those small victories, celebrate those small milestones. And guys, as we continue to grow and we do these little things right, that eventually, as we're doing more and more little things right, those big things will start taking care of themselves.
You had one of the best athletes in the state. We had him on our show a couple times last year, and Joe Crumlick, who's now playing football at the Air Force Academy. To have a guy like that, how much does he not necessarily cover up some warts, but boy, he can do a lot of things for us. And you can't replace one guy. You probably have to need 4 guys to replace a player of his talent, right?
Oh, absolutely. He's those one of those once in a generation kind of kids that come through. I mean, he's off doing very well at Air Force. His dad, Aaron Cromlick, coaches for us, and so we're fortunate enough to get updates quite frequently from Coach Cromlick on how Joe's doing. And he's loving it down there, and he's competing. And I think they got him redshirt in this first year. But yeah, it's fun hearing back the stories on that. But you're exactly right. I mean, how do you fill the shoes of a guy like that? It's not necessarily so much as filling them as in, what can we do? But the upside of that is we had some young corners that got to learn from him. We had a couple of Brogan Young is one that comes to mind. He was a freshman starting. When Joe was there, and Joe kind of took those guys under their wings. We've had a few freshmen actually starting in the secondary for a few years now. And man, talk about a good mentor, because Joe had done camps at higher levels and had trained on some higher level things. And even me just sitting down and talking to him, because I'm not a secondary guy. I was an O-line guy, D-line guy. So, I don't claim to know it all. So I would even sit down sometimes and just talk football with those guys and jot down some ideas and some notes as to what we can do better in the secondary. But I think he left a lasting impact on our program, obviously in the hole that we needed to fill, but also in how he showed these other guys what's possible if you have the dreams and aspirations of wanting to go on to the next level, or even just elevating your game personally to compete on Friday nights.
We were talking off air. So as a coach, you're in the submarine, but are you paying attention once it's time for bracket time? Like, all right, where are we going to go? Were you involved in that, or like, just show me who we got to play and we'll go from there?
I'm a little bit more on that latter school of just show me who to play, show me what the road is.
Yeah.
I have a couple of assistant coaches that are a little bit more tuned into those type of things. And I was up Saturday morning doing some things, and I had been told that the brackets were going to be out about 11 o'clock. So I was going to be like, I'll check, around that time. And about 9:15, my phone starts blowing up from my assistant coaches, who already somehow knew, what the road was going to be. And like I said, that did help alleviate a little bit of stress. But I'm definitely one of those guys of just tell me what the road is, and then we'll start making a plan of how we got to move forward.
So now that you know who you're going to match up, it's Grafton. What is this last few days about getting info and facing a team you haven't seen before?
Yeah, Grafton actually played a couple of Region 1 opponents to kick off their season. So we were actually watching them on the opposite side of film when we were prepping for some of our Region 1 games. So we got to see a little bit about what they were about earlier in the year. And, some things that definitely popped up is they got a playmaking quarterback, big, tall, athletic kid, and a couple of really long athletic receivers that can make plays down the field. And then they'll, when you're focused too much on that, they'll hit you with the run underneath with a couple of shifty running backs, and they got a pretty physical offensive line, and they're a playoff team for a reason. So we found out the hard way last year, making the playoffs and going up to Harvey, that man, there's nothing guaranteed at this stage of the game.
I was going to ask you about that, Garrett, about last year's experience for the guys that are back that have gone through this to get them ready. Okay, you guys full well know what's coming on Saturday, except the difference is you got it at home now.
Yep, exactly. And I think back to last year, and the goal definitely, as we were building this thing, we talked about a little bit earlier about celebrating the small things and trying to build the program up that way. But I definitely know a big focal point from last year and a goal was getting the playoffs. That was the first Thunder football team last year to get in the playoffs since 2018, and that was definitely a goal. And I don't know if there was a little bit of a letdown in the fact that, hey, we accomplished the goal, and maybe we didn't put enough emphasis on the next steps moving forward. I know the guys were excited about being in the playoffs last year, and they did some of the hair dyeing stuff and the mustache kind of thing, and that's the difference of what we've seen this year. Is there was no talk of that. Yesterday's practice was very, very upbeat and very focused. And I think it was a great experience last year, as tough as it was to go up to Harvey, lose to a good team up there, a well-coached team for Harvey. And, as tough as it was last year at that time, I think it's going to help us grow and hopefully be ready to make a little more of a run here in this year's playoffs.
I'm always interested in this. Tell us, for how far away do you guys have players coming from and waiting around for guys to get to practice? Can you describe the challenges of that?
Yeah, that if we were to ask me what our number one, challenge is as a co-op school, it's going to be the travel.
Yeah.
I think one of my assistant coaches was telling me they calculated out the mileage, and it's just an obscene amount of miles that these kids have put on this year. Because we try to make it an even amount of practices in each of the communities between Ellendale, Edgeley, and Cullum. Edgeley's kind of centrally located there, so it's 25 miles to Ellendale, 15 to Cullum. But when we're in Cullum or we're in Ellendale, those two communities having to travel, it's close to 40 minutes on the bus just to get to practice. So there's a lot of days where we're not able to even kick practice off till about 4:15. And what's hard is when you're a part of a small school, you're all pulling. Every organization's pulling from the same small bucket. So these kids aren't just football players. I mean, they're in the one act play. They're in FBLA. Some of them are running cross country, and we encourage that stuff. That's fantastic. That's part of the experience of growing up in rural North Dakota, and so definitely a challenge. We just feel like we have to be a little bit more efficient than everybody when we go to practice, because we still try to get them out of there by 6 o'clock, 10 to 6, so that they can still go home and be kids and do those types of things too. But so we really focus on high tempo, efficient practices where we don't waste a second. And our kids have really kind of adopted that too over the last 4 years.
You're going to have to roll with it here if you keep playing with it getting darker earlier. How do you adjust for that, knowing that you're running out of daylight?
Well, the schools all told us they're okay with us kicking those lights on the stadiums if we got to, and like we always say, whatever it takes. So
to have for yourself personally, Saturday comes around when you just maybe take a minute, say, you know what, from 0-9 to this. Will you think you'll do that on Saturday?
I think I'll, that's hard to say. If Saturday goes well for us, I think there'll definitely be some reflection. If Saturday doesn't go the way we want us to, I think that'll take me a little longer before I'm able to sit back and reflect. But I've actually been able to enjoy that a little bit with this group after the wins on Friday nights, getting home and talking to the assistant coaches. And we've definitely had those conversations about the rewarding feeling of where we're at compared to where we started. And that goes back to what we talked to the kids about never taking anything for granted, that everything in small town North Dakota seems to cycle. And, you get fortunate enough once in a while to be blessed with great groups of kids. And, we definitely have had that my last 4 years. And like I said, hopefully we're establishing enough of a foundation that we can continue to build on that.
All right, last thing before I let you go, and I really appreciate the time this morning. I know how big of a Valley City State guy you are. You bragging after the big win over Mayville a couple weeks ago. You got bragging rights now.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's one that always feels good. I played back when it was the original DAC 10.
Yeah.
So we played, Jamestown was a big rival. Mayville was a big rival. So anytime you can get those wins, it's a good day. And Coach Mack and Coach Horner, I played for both of those guys, and they're still doing their thing up at Valley and doing a great job. And no, it's fun to see.
How about a Valley City State game in Oregon? Did you ever think you'd see that ever?
I didn't. I did follow it on the computer that day when they were out there, and no, I didn't think. I mean, I know there was talk of that when we had made the playoffs a couple years back then. We ended up going out to Carroll College, but there was some talk at the time that we could potentially end up playing a team out on that West Coast. I think it was Azusa out of California at that time, but yeah, no, I never thought I'd see it, and I mean, it's definitely interesting to see the direction that things have changed.
Garrett, this was awesome, bud. Thanks so much for doing this. Good luck on Saturday, and hopefully we'll talk soon, okay?
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Garrit Irey joining us, head coach at Ellendale-Edgeley-Cullum. The Thunder open up the Class A playoffs coming up on Saturday against Grafton. They are the 3 seed there, Killdeer the 2, and we mentioned Langdon area Munich the number 1, and what should be a really fun Class A tournament that gets going on Saturday. We'll take a break. We come back. We've got a couple emails to get to, including for you Red Hawks fans, you can start planning it. We got the 26 American Association schedule when the Hawks will play their home opener. It's coming up when Hot Mike returns after this.